Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Joy of Stick. Stickhead here with your Atari ST gaming channel, and today we're bringing you episode 2 of the Summer of Dungeon Master, and we're diving into the manual today, specifically to have a look at this story that's at the beginning of the manual that sets the scene and lays out the plot ready for the game itself. So let's dive in, shall we? I mean, if you're sitting comfortably, I'll begin. Chaos unleashed. It was quiet in the dungeon of the Grey Lord. The soft flames of the torches gleamed on the fire staff, grandly displayed in its place of glass on a field of cobalt blue. The rubies and sapphires encircling the hilt caught the light and threw it against the brass astrolabe and compass that Theron of Viborg held in his hands as he copied a star chart for his master. Deep within the bowels of the dungeon, the Grey Lord's great bronze bell tolled the hour. Listening, Theron looked up from his task and sighed. 5 o'clock. Would the wizard never emerge from his laboratory? Fulcrum, his master's raven, flapped his wings and landed on Theron's shoulder. "Aha! I have it! Aha! I have it!" the raven cawed, in perfect imitation of the pleased tone of the Grey Lord adopted whenever he solved a problem or completed an experiment. "I have it! Aha! Aha!" "My heart is filled with joy for you," Theron muttered. "Now, do you think you could fly through that thick oak door and remind our master that I'm expected in Viborg?" "Aha!" Fulcrum cried. With a sigh, Theron returned to his chart. When the bell tolled 6, Theron put down his instruments, rubbed his eyes, and tiptoed across the stones to the door of his master's secret laboratory. Holding his breath, he rapped on the door. "Sir, I'm ready to go," he ventured. When there was no reply, he pressed his ear against the wood and listened. The tinkle of glass, the crackling of a great fire, a puff as if of smoke. The smell of manna seeped from beneath the door, and he inhaled deeply, savouring it. The Grey Lord must be engrossed in a serious experiment. He had been locked inside the vault since the high moon 3 nights before. "Master!" the young apprentice called again. He thought he heard a rumbling sigh as if from a dragon, or the soul of some harnessed and unhappy demon. And then the Grey Lord said, "I heard you the first time, Theron. Give me leave to respond, you rash pup." "Forgive me," Theron murmured, drawing back as the door opened. Fulcrum cawed and flew inside, and Theron seized the chance to glance into the forbidden room, but strain as he might, all he saw was shadow. How Theron longed to work there, learning the powerful wizard's deepest secrets. "No forgiveness is needed, from you at any rate. It is I who should apologise for my ill temper." The Grey Lord stepped from the gloom at the far end of the laboratory. Love and awe welled in Theron's heart for the tall figure in the grey wool robes who had chosen him from all the village lads to serve as his apprentice, and promised that in return he would teach him of the mysteries of the universe, of magic and physic, and make of him one day an arch-master of all the arts. "I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir," Theron went on. "It's just that the hour grows late, and I—" "As I said, young one, no need to apologise. I well remember the eagerness of youth, and you have sacrificed much of that vigour in my service. I do not begrudge you your impatience to be off to Viborg," he smiled. "Had I a maid as fair as your Vela waiting for me, I would be in haste to go as well." The Grey Lord cocked his head, and the dreamy expression Theron knew so well stole over his features. Theron often wondered if his master were lonely, secluded in this dungeon beneath Mount Aeneas, the sacred mountain of lava and crystal. It was rumoured to be the resting place of the power gem, the orb that thawed the ice from which dwarf and halfling, elf, man and high lord alike had risen. "Well then," the wizard said, rousing himself from whatever thoughts had led his mind away, "you must be off to collect my henna rope. Put on your cloak." With a wave of the Grey Lord's hand, a wooden closet covered with ironwork and emeralds swung open, and Theron's magic cloak of fluid silver glittered within. It floated across the room and draped itself around Theron, shining in the dim light. The wizard adjusted it on Theron's shoulders. His mere touch sent crackles of mana through Theron's body, and he carefully covered Theron's head with the hood. "A harmonious journey, my young friend." The Grey Lord raised his luminous hand in benediction. Theron dropped to one knee. "I seek balance in all I do, my lord." The Grey Lord frowned slightly. "I am your master, Theron, but not your lord. How many times must I tell you this? I would we had never taken that name on, High Lord." His voice was tinged with irony. "We are no higher than you, though some of us would have you believe otherwise. We slumbered in the ice beside the other races, placed there by the same creator." "Yes, sir," Theron responded dutifully, though he, like all of Viborg, knew the Grey Lord was not at all like them. It was common knowledge that the High Lords were gods, and the Grey Lord was the most powerful of them. More than once he personally had saved the people from war and division from the wizard's own kingsman at Wisdane, and now, rather than retire to the upper plane with the other High Lords, or to rule over the world as he had been asked, he chose to seclude himself in a dungeon of his own making, there to discover the answers to his many questions of origin and purpose, in hopes of creating a world of harmony and balance for those who dwelled upon it. Together, master and apprentice walked to the sphere of crystals, which they used for short journeys from the dungeon, such as the one to Viborg. Theron stood inside it and crossed his wrists beneath the cloak. "Go in harmony, Theron." "I seek balance, Grey Lord." The stone walls of Theron's home began to disappear. Shadows grew beyond the gleam of the crystals, descending on the chests and shelves of books, the table where the Grey Lord and Theron supped and played chess and debated ancient philosophies, on the Grey Lord himself, whose eyes glittered as he watched Theron go. Oh, Theron thought, was his master crying? And then the wizard opened his arms and blurted, "Theron, I found it." Theron gasped. "The power gem?" "Yes. As I always suspected, it lies within the mountain flames." The crystals blinded Theron. He knew he must close his eyes, but he strained to see. "Master, this is great news." The Grey Lord's face swam before him. "Yes, when next we meet, I shall show you a dawn fairer than you can imagine." While Theron squinted inside the sphere, the case that contained the firestaff slowly opened. The wizard reached out his hand and drew forth the instrument with a mighty crack. Theron pounded against the crystals. "No, master, you mean to extract the power gem while I'm gone. You're sending me away so you can do it alone. My lord, attend me, don't do it, no!" Theron cried out as the crystals blazed around him. He saw moons and suns and rushing stars, and a pulsing he thought would blind him. Golden, no. Silver, no. White, as white hot as the soul of mortal, as the heart of a high lord, as the ice that had borne and sheltered their ancestors. He fell to his knees and covered his eyes. Something surrounded him, a form of mana more powerful than anything he had ever experienced. It hit him like a blow, and he sprawled within the sphere, prostrate. Safe within the centre of the magic oak that was his destination, Theron awoke with a start and sat up. Slowly he got to his feet, frowning as he did so. A strangeness tugged at his mind. Something alarming had happened in the laboratory just before his journey, something to do with his master. He cocked his head. He could remember nothing. He didn't even recall entering the crystal sphere. Troubled, he stepped from the oak and into a shower of snow-white apple blossoms. Vela, his betrothed, giggled as she knelt above him in the cleft of the tree, shaking a limb from her father's apple orchard so that the petals rained down on Theron. "Harmony, Theron," she trilled as she dropped the branch and held out her small soft hands to him. "I've been waiting for you all day." Waiting. It was something about waiting. Asking his master to wait for him. To do what? Theron scratched his chin. His mind was blank. Theron, Vela chided gaily. Aren't you going to help me down? Theron roused himself. Whatever it was would come to him. Perhaps he had dreamed inside the crystal chamber. It would not be the first time. He smiled up at Vela and said, Give me leave to take off my cloak, love. You know its touch would burn you. Hurry then, I'm eager for a kiss. Theron removed the cloak and hung it on a branch, then took his beloved in his arms. She was so beautiful. She smelled of apples and roses, and her hair was soft as the pelt of a rabbit. Theron couldn't wait until the Grey Lord gave him permission to marry her. When he was an Archmaster, so much depended on that. Oh, Vela, he said, sighing against her hair, I want to tarry with you, but I'm on an errand for my master. Vela knit her brows. But you told me the Grey Lord bade you stay at the night at my father's inn. I did? Yes, on the high moon. Don't you remember? The odd feeling returned to Theron. He absently stroked Vela's hair. How could he forget such a thing? What else had he forgotten? Truly, Theron, you can ask father. You are to stay with us. Everything has been arranged, including a safe place to put that. Vela gestured uncertainly towards his cloak. Theron knew she was afraid of it. You know I'd like nothing better than to stay with you and your father, Theron said, hiding his confusion, and his reward for his words was another kiss. Come now, my love. Vela grabbed his hand in both of hers and tugged hard. Father has prepared a feast for you, and the wise woman waits to give you the henna rope for your master. Then we can dream together beside the river. How can a man refuse such a wench? He asked, and for the first time realised he was no longer a lad. He was a man of the world, and the Grey Lord's trusted apprentice. He was a mortal of worth, as his dear mother would have said, a catch for any lusty girl, and he wanted no one but Vela. They feasted that night on joints of venison and Vela's father's best ale, and with his cloak on a hook over his bed, Theron slept the sleep of the well-contented, a smile on his face. He passed the night in wonderful dreams of his wedding day, of his life with Vela. The Grey Lord had promised them a cottage on the side of the mountain, with lambs and geese, a waterfall cascading into a pond, a simple thing for him to arrange. Theron and his master would initiate Vela into their secrets, or most of them. There were some things best left to the ken of High Lords and Archmasters, and secrets that the Grey Lord alone could possess. Secrets. Theron frowned in his sleep. There was something about his leave-taking, about secrets, the penetration of mysteries. And then his dream blurred and raged into a nightmare. He imagined himself in terrible agony, as if he'd been torn in two pieces. His own cries echoed in his ears as he struggled against the searing pain that shot through his limbs, his flesh, his heart. His hair burned, his bones throbbed. And he thought that this was what dying was. This was death. He found himself standing on a hill covered with scorched brush. The trees around him were black skeletons, brown shriveled skins dangling where once the branches dipped with red apples and juicy peaches. The sky was a sea of red choking with smoke, and his village lay in ruins. Soldiers chased young children through the streets. A sound of wailing filled the air. He heard cracks like thunder and shut his eyes tightly. When he opened them, he hung above the earth and saw armies riding across the land. War, famine, pestilence, tragedy, and misery cut down the people wherever he looked. Horrified, Theron raced through his nightmare. He flew past the ruined trees and blasted earth. The heavens opened up and frozen rain pelted him. Winds struck at him and buffeted him like a feather. He gathered his cloak around his body, shouting, "No, master! Don't do it while I'm gone! Don't do it, my lord! Attend me!" He raised his arms above his head and saw through his own hands. Gasping, he realised his entire body was transparent. "I'm dreaming," he reminded himself. It was a vivid dream, to be sure, but hadn't the Grey Lord warned him that with increased power strong visions would sometimes haunt his sleep? "No," a voice said into his ear. Theron blinked, and the vision was gone. He was standing in the foothills of Mount Aeneas before the doors to his master's dungeon. Theron turned around. "Who speaks to me in my nightmare?" "No dream. No nightmare. Show yourself," Theron commanded. "Cannot." "I demand it." He raised his hand from his cloak in a gesture of magical power, then drew in his fist and recited a spell of seeing. Faintly, a globe of light appeared before the doors, then ebbed. Theron repeated the magic gesture. The light grew brighter. It was the sphere of crystal from the Grey Lord's laboratory, and shrouded within it stood a figure of white, its features obscured. "Theron," the figure rasped. Theron took 3 steps backwards. "Master?" "Theron," the voice said again. The light grew brighter. Theron saw the face of the Grey Lord and ran towards the sphere with outstretched arms. Master, tell me what's happening. This must be a vision. I fell asleep a few hours ago and—" "No," said Theron's master. He was dressed in white, not his customary grey, and Theron wondered if that was why his face seemed so tight, his lips pursed thin as if in anger. His eyes were steely and flat. "Listen to me. This is real." It's not a dream?" Theron asked, aghast. "Oaths, what's going on?" "Calm yourself," the wizard snapped. "We have no time for you to give way to hysteria." "Yes, sir." Theron looked down at himself. "My lord, what magic has caused us to be as ghosts?" His master spoke. "I tried to retrieve the power gem. In my foolish enthusiasm, I blurted out my plans to you while you were on your way to collect henna rope from the wise woman of Viborg." "Now I remember," Theron cried. I couldn't before, but—" "Hush. I made you forget so that your loyalty wouldn't prompt you to insist on remaining with me. I wasn't sure I would be able to survive the capturing of the power gem." "You discovered the spell?" Theron asked. "You never told me." "I began it, but I had it wrong. When I applied the spell's energy to the gem, the universe exploded. I was blinded for a year." "A year?" Theron shouted. "I've been asleep for a year." "You haven't been asleep at all. You were torn asunder, the same as I. But because you weren't present at the explosion, you weren't thrown off the material plane as I was. You see, I exist in limbo now. I occupy half spaces. I can't move in this world as you can, and that's why you must go into the dungeon to stop him." "Whom?" Theron blinked back tears. Had he thought himself a man only this morning? He was as frightened as a little child. "Chaos, Theron." The wizard clenched his fist and raised his face towards the sky. "When the explosion occurred, he split off from me. He is, I'm sad to say, my evil side, that wild, uncontrollable part of me that I can scarce acknowledge. We all have one, but mine is now free to wreak his will on mankind. And he seeks to rule over you, to destroy civilization, to send every living creature back to that first age of ice when we were born." The wizard pointed to the dungeon. "He's taken over the dungeon and seeks the power gem. He controls the fire staff, but he hasn't learned the spell to free the power gem, even though the clues lie hidden in my laboratory. I've reordered my thoughts in the earth since the accident, and now I alone know the correct spell." "What do you need me to do, Grey Lord?" Theron asked fiercely. The figure visibly jerked. "First of all, you must no longer think of me as the Grey Lord. I have relinquished that name. I am to be called Librasulus," which Theron knew translated from the ancient language of high magic as restorer of order. "Yes, Lord Librasulus," Theron said, lowering his head in a gesture of fealty. "I pledge you my service." "Excellent. I count on that service, Theron. You must be my arms and legs, my eyes and mind. Until I possess the fire staff, I cannot enter the dungeon. Since that great catastrophe, I could only appear on this plane, in this place, outside it. Just as he must remain within it. We are here, he and I, and yet we are not. You must bring the fire staff to this place." Theron licked his lips. "But how can I get into the dungeon? I have no substance either. Do I not occupy half spaces?" Lord Librasulus nodded. That's logical, Theron. I taught you well. But there are actions you can take that I cannot. Actions you must take if I am to stop Lord Chaos. That's what he calls himself. He is master of my dungeon. Now, you must give it back to me. The dungeon? Theron squinted at the wizard as the sphere began to jitter. The fire staff, don't you see? With it, I have the power to enter the dungeon and retrieve the power gem. Then I will banish chaos, and the world will know a new age of order. But I can stay no longer. You must hear me now. In the years since the catastrophe, I've sent mortal champions into the dungeon in the hopes they could retrieve the fire staff. Unfortunately, Lord Librisolus said, they perished in the attempt. All of them? But a few hundred. A small sacrifice when one counts the fates of millions against it. They weren't disciplined enough. They couldn't focus themselves. They fought with each other, stopped to gather treasures. So they died. Theron's heart chilled. How bloodlessly his master spoke of these things, but how tired he seemed, how tormented he must be. Perhaps he had cut off his emotion in order to survive an unendurable weight of guilt. Theron nodded and said, So they died, sir. Lord Chaos hung 24 of them in a place he calls the Hall of Champions. The great High Lord scowled. It's his trophy room. He has imprisoned them there in magic mirrors. They are frozen, suspended, dead, and yet not dead. He placed them there as warning for those who would undertake my cause. Lord Librisolus paced back and forth within the sphere. You, with your advanced knowledge of the arts, can enter the hall and awaken them. I have sufficient power to aid you in this, but only for 4 souls. You may select as many as 4, but no more. They will not see you, but your influence and knowledge shall guide them through the dungeon and to the fire staff. And I must decide which of them is to possess a new lifetime, Theron asked softly. A heavy burden. You can also use their life energies to create champions more to your liking, Lord Librisolus said offhandedly. What? Theron's eyes widened. Yes, I can empower you to do that. Perhaps you shall find that another lad with your own abilities better suits the task at hand. Or perhaps you need clever helpers with more than strong ones. You can fashion what you will. That sounds almost blasphemous, my lord. The wizard ignored him. You shall lead your champions as I am now leading you, as a spirit without form or substance. It is they who must move and act in the world, they who still belong to it. Go quickly, Theron, into the dungeon and rouse the world's saviours. Choose wisely, for upon them hangs destiny. But how shall I choose? Theron asked, bewildered. What dangers do they face? Lord Chaos has perverted my experiments. He has created deadly puzzles they must solve, twisting my love of logic, spitting in my face. He's created hideous monsters. I've been told by those who've escaped that some of those monsters once were mortals, whom he captured and transformed. It is hell that I send you to, Theron, but it is necessary. The sphere shattered into thousands of pieces. Theron covered his face and shouted, How am I to choose? What am I to do? As the crystals of the sphere plummeted to the earth, the wizard's voice echoed against the wind. Go into the dungeon and look at the champions in their vaults. Look into their souls and see what they were made of. Look. Theron looked. He sent his mind past the dungeon doors, searching and seeking down the tunnels and shaft to the Hall of Champions. It was dark, and an aura of gloom rolled through it, of violence and despair, of death. On the walls of the wretched catacomb he saw mirrors, and in them the frozen champions, men, women, dwarves, elves, and creatures he'd never seen before, a lizard man, a dog thing. Their glazed eyes stared at him as if in entreaty. Help us, free us. Theron stopped before the face of an elven woman. She was as lovely as Vela, with light brown hair and a warrior's strong features, a gown of white falling off her shoulders. Moved, he reached out his hand to touch her through the mirror, and then a scream of anguish pierced his temples. He was tumbling into a pit. Stones and torches and writhing forms of 4 people crashed past him, and everything slammed into a huge pile. A wooden beam toppled across the back of an old man with a white beard. He cried out, and then was still. The elf landed on top of a large burly youth dressed in a loincloth. Another man braced himself for impact by crouching into a ball and was covered with rocks and stones. "Sirrah!" the young man shouted. A broadsword cuffed his temple, and he sprawled forwards. Theron braced himself for impact, but he simply hovered above the scene, a hapless onlooker. A sick feeling grabbed at his stomach when he realised he was watching a scene from the past, and that these 4 were now imprisoned in the mirror crypts. He had a premonition that he was to witness their deaths, and wished with all his heart that someone else had been cursed with this terrible mission. The bearded man was dressed in the robes of a prophet. The muscular youth was obviously a barbarian. The other man was perhaps a thief. Some of the pouches on his leather belt had burst, and a handful of gems and trinkets spilled across the dirt and stone. And the beautiful elf he recognised from the Hall of Champions? What of her? An oak staff lay near her outstretched arm, bearing the crest of those who tended the oak grove where his magic tree grew, or once had grown before the ravaging of the earth. After a time the old man stirred beneath the wooden beam. "Sirrah," he said, gasping. Theron swallowed hard when she didn't reply, and then she moaned and opened her eyes. "Nabby!" She scrambled over to him and tried to pull the beam off his back. Her hands were torn and bleeding. "Hulk! Alex! Help me!" The man called Nabby and inhaled sharply. "The map! I dropped it when we fell. I'm sorry, child. I fear it's lost." "Oh, great. Just great," the barbarian youth muttered, picking rocks off himself as he sat up. "No map. Wasn't enough that you opened the pit?" "Can you sit up, Nabby?" Sirrah asked. She began to cry when the old man shook his head. The barbarian rolled his eyes. "Oh, it grows even better. We have a wounded leader, a hysterical wench, and Alexander's out cold." He nudged the unconscious man. "Still alive, though." "Oh," Sirrah said softly. "Is he badly hurt?" She seemed torn between tending Nabby and going to Alexander. "How should I know?" Hulk snapped. "I'm no priest." He gestured towards the prophet draped over Sirrah's lap. "He's done for, eh?" "Hulk, be quiet," Sirrah said through clenched teeth. "You have the sensitivity of a troll." Hulk grunted and slapped Alex's cheeks. "Wake up! No gold bricking allowed. We've got to get out of here." "I'll have to make up some more healing potions," Sirrah told Nabby. "I'm sorry, I should have had some ready." She reached into his pouch and pulled out an empty flask. "That's right," Hulk called out as he raised Alex's lids and studied his eyes. "If you'd been practicing your healing spells, maybe we could have improved the old man's vision." "A pity we need you." Sirrah closed her hand around a dagger at her waist. "I've had almost as much as I can take of you, barbarian." The barbarian drew himself up. "Listen, child of nature, I've done my part, I've practised my skills. I'm the only journeyman anything in this band." Nabby flashed Sirrah a mournful smile. "I'm sorry I was so careless. Hulk is right. It was I who opened up the pit." "You didn't see the trigger, it was dark," she replied, brushing his hair away from his forehead. "I'm going to check on Alex. Lie still." She rose unsteadily and made her way to Alex's side. She lost her footing in the rocks and slid part-way down the pile, catching herself by grabbing onto an oaken plank. "Strong work," Hulk growled. Sirrah glared at him. "We wouldn't be in this predicament if you hadn't insisted on going after that chest. We wasted our time getting to that thing." "I need armour," Hulk said defensively. "There could have been food inside it too." "I guess everyone's all right," Alexander drawled as he raised himself on his elbows and grinned at Sirrah. "You two are bickering as usual." Wordlessly, Sirrah shook her head. A glance passed between her and the handsome man, and Theron realised they were in love, and his heart moved for them. "Nabby," she whispered. "Oh, no." Alex closed his eyes tightly and groped for her hand. They sat silently for a moment, comforting each other. "Start a new map," Nabby said with great effort. "It's vital to your survival." "And Hulk's right. You must be careful to explore the dungeon, even the dead ends. You never know what you might find." "Yeah." Alex opened his eyes and nodded. "We've found some good things." "Ugh, like crowns and necklaces." Hawk threw more stones down the side of the hill of debris. "If you didn't carry all that junk around, thief, we wouldn't be too tired to fight. You were no help at all with the trolling." "You shouldn't have leaned against the wall," Alex retorted. "You let it out. Nabby told us there were switches and triggers everywhere." Hawk crossed his arms. "There was nothing on that cursed wall. I found it just because you didn't see it." "Well, I saw the pit." Hawk wiped his muddy hands on his loincloth and took a drink from the gourd on his belt. "The outline was plain as day, and speaking of day, we got somebody's god to thank for that torch over there. This place would be as dark as a moonless night without it. Ours are all out." Cyril left Alex and returned to Nabby. With great love and gentleness she touched his forehead. "We'll get out, Nabby. Don't. All this talking bores me. We should start searching for a way out." Hawk got to his feet and started digging through the rubble. "Loki's bolts. Where's my sword?" The atmosphere in the corridor changed. Theron felt it as surely as someone pressed a block of ice to the back of his neck. Dread flooded through him like a frigid river. He wanted to warn them, tell them to flee, but he was powerless. He could only watch the past unfold. "Here it is," Hawk announced, lifting the same broadsword over his head that had knocked out Alexander. "Now, if only I had some chainmail or a helmet, I'd be invincible." "Just a little more difficult to kill," Cyril said. Suddenly a violent tremor assaulted the walls of the chamber. More stones fell from the ceiling and Cyril hunched over Nabby to protect him as they thundered down. 2 large doors appeared at the end of the passage. They cracked open and the space between them blazed with a searing white light. "By my troth," Nabby whispered, "I see him. It's the Dark Lord we were warned about. You must run." The rumbling became a roar. Rhythmic thunder sent tremors through the stones, the footsteps of doom heading for them. "Escape," Nabby croaked. "Nabby's right," Alex said. "We'll need the torch." He scrambled through the wreckage to the wall and tried to pull the torch out of the sconce. "It's stuck." "I'm not running. I'll stay and fight," Hawk bellowed, racing down the corridor towards the doors. He leapt over a grate and positioned himself in front of the doors. "I've fought Wee-Twos and living skeletons and thousands of things I've never seen before, and by the bones of Wistane, I'm not through fighting yet." "Get away! Flee!" Nabby's chest heaved. "I see him coming, with his black cape and his horns cut." Cyril licked her lips. Theron sagged as he saw her face harden with resolve. He knew she would stay to protect the old man. "Perhaps I can deflect him," she said. "I am, after all, an apprentice wizard." Squaring her shoulders, she picked up her staff and joined the others near the door. She held the staff in the direction of the door. Then her dress caught on the end of a candelabra buried among the rocks. "Mother Mentra, be my light," Cyril said. Quickly she lit the candles in the flames of the torch, which Alex still fought to pull out of its holder. Behind her, Nabby screamed. She whirled around. He and the huge pile of stone were gone. In his place gleamed a pile of skulls, the remains of his intricate map wedged amongst them. "He mocks us," Cyril said. She whirled back around and faced the door. "Come then, monster. We'll destroy you." No, you can't," Theron yelled, though no one could hear him. Even if they could have, it was too late. Light filled his eyes. And so it went, as Theron searched the souls of all the imprisoned champions, forced to watch the deaths of 24 valiant heroes. Then at last, the visions dissolved, and Theron stood alone at the entrance to his master's dungeon.